and welcome to the Rates and Lanes podcast. I'm your host, Rico Muhammad, and I will be joined shortly by my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. And tonight, I'll let Chuck usually handle the introductions, but if you guys would do us a huge favor before we bring everybody up, please like, share, and subscribe to the video on the channel. Leave us a comment. Let us know what it is that you found that might be helpful and useful, or maybe even share your thoughts and your opinions with us as well. We always look forward to an engaging dialogue from you guys, our listeners. And with that being said, we're going to go ahead and bring up my co-host, Mr. Chuck Snow. Good evening, Chuck. How are you?
Oh, we're doing well, Rico. How are you?
We are maintaining, trying to keep it. We are keeping it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise, as we like to say.
Well, I'm trying to. As we all know, I kind of had her in the ditch for a while because I did something to my computer, something to do with water.
Yeah, water and electronics don't mix too good, Chuck.
Not real well, but we're going to see what we can do here after the show. So, excuse my very primitive technology tonight. I'm on a phone, and we're going to do our best to do this.
Yeah, you might have to stick your laptop in a bag of rice.
Yeah, just me. Well, I'm in LA. I shouldn't have any problem finding rice around here. It's a big city.
All right, Chuck. Well, we got an old friend of the show that's coming on to join us tonight. You wanna tell us?
Yes, I do. Our old friend Ted Johnston, the founder and CEO of Elite Commodities out of Nebraska, who I met Ted several years ago. He was just starting out. He had one truck, and we hit it off. We became friends. He's been a friend of the show. He's been on several times before, and happy to have him on. Ted, how are you doing? Long time no see, man.
Hey, I'm doing good. It's good to be back to talk more stuff about trucking.
Well, yeah, certainly. I was thinking about you at Matt's. I was wondering if you would make it down to Louisville for the big show.
Well, I need to get someone else hired in the office to do my part to go partake in those things. But yeah, I wanted to do it. I had a lot of friends there, got to see all the pictures. It looked like a very good time, and maybe in the coming years I'll be there.
Well, you know what? It's really hard. When you're small, when you go to Matt's for a few days, stuff happens and it falls between the cracks. I get it.
Yeah. Yep, that's for sure. So did you enjoy yourself while you were there?
It was great. You know what? It was. I wasn't there exhibiting for Traffics this week for this show, and I got to walk around the show and see all sorts of friends and people I've been looking to connect with. So it was really, really worthwhile. And I even got to go to a few of the lectures, which are always great.
That's good. Did you get to see Kevin Rutherford speak at all?
As a matter of fact, Kevin Rutherford and I spent 2.5 hours talking along with another fellow, Joel, who I want to get on the show, who is like, the guy is like, he's a genius. He really is. He's discovered stuff. He's getting like over 10 miles per gallon on a Volvo hauling general freight all over the place.
Wow.
So we have to get him on. And we were on Kevin's show together for about 2.5 hours. It was fantastic. Just like the old days.
That's great.
Yeah. So it was good. So Ted, it's been a while since you were on the show. Tell us what's going on with Elite Commodities.
Yeah.
How's business?
Well, we're staying busy, thankfully, and most of my trucks are going to Florida right now. We go all over Florida, north, central, and all the way to Miami south. It's bid season for me with one customer, so that will be interesting. I just got a RFP sheet to fill out here in the next week. So, and speaking of that, our cargo insurance requirement for them is moving. It's at $250,000 right now, and they want us to hold a $425,000 cargo limit.
Ooh, that's getting up there.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I have two customers that are the same, produce same products, and one's asking for it, the other one's not yet. So depending on what the cost will be is what the rates will. I mean, the market's one thing, but when they want twice as much as anyone else, I gotta wait to see what that cost is, and then determine my rates off of that.
Well, yeah, because it gets expensive. Now, one of the things you can do, I don't know about with cargo at that amount, but one of the things you might be able to do is get two separate insurance companies, two separate policies, and you have one at the ground level, like from whatever your deductible is, let's say 5,000 deductible up to 100, and then you get the second one from 100 to the 425.
Yeah, and that's what we're looking at right now. So it'll be interesting to get those options back and analyze it and see how I can move forward. And I think one of the things too that this customer is doing is weeding out carriers. Who can take this on and who can't, because they have plenty of options and they only want
Yeah.
the best for their umbrella.
Right.
One thing I'm disappointed about is they don't want rates, with the zip code. They just want rates per state. And
Ooh, that's, you know what? We've lived through that nightmare before. And, you get some real wide states and, or long states. Like, how can you give one rate to California? There's some, there's some real nasty places here in California. You get into that northern region and there's nothing out of there.
yeah, so I can't, I guess the rate has to, my take on it is what I told them. I guess my rate will be higher. To
Yeah. The good thing is that the volumes of freight historically go into the bigger centers.
yeah,
So, places like, and I'm going to use Redding, California for a bad example, which is in the middle of, it's almost at the Oregon, the Southern Oregon border. Not much goes in there, but a lot of it's going to go into your big centers like LA and San Francisco.
yeah. Texas is the one I'm concerned about because that's a big state.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A whole nother country, dog, almost.
Yeah, it is. It is the size of it's the size of a good sized European. No, it's bigger than most European countries. It's the size of Europe.
Right. And the thing is they just said, here's what the guidelines are for this RFP. If you don't like it, don't fill it out. That's what it is.
It's funny. We're right back to where we were pre-pandemic, where, and it's probably even worse, where the shippers had to pay a lot of money during the pandemic. Prior to that, they were getting away with being bullies, a lot of them. And you know what? They're doing it again. They're making up for what they had to pay during that period from April 2020 until, the end of, almost the end of 2023.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah, they want their pound of flesh.
Yep. The ball's in their court. Yeah, the ball's in their court, and they're having fun.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I know that Rico, and I'm sure you operate the same way, having spoken to you so much. You never took advantage of them during those markets. And you would think that there would be, I remember this guy, he was good. He didn't take advantage of me, but they don't remember.
Uh-oh.
You there, Ted?
You there, Ted?
I'm here. Are you speaking to me or Rico?
No, both of you. Both of you. It doesn't matter how loyal you were. They just forgot who was loyal.
Yeah.
Right. Go ahead, Ted.
I will say I increased my rates during that time because all of my other costs were going up. So I was increasing it to keep up with cost. I mean, tires were skyrocketing. Fuel was decent to us, but there was a lot of other things that were just out of hand. And
driver wages.
Yeah.
That's one of them.
Yeah.
Trucks, trailers. How many trucks are you guys operating now?
Well, I got 12 trucks and 16 trailers.
Wow, good for you.
So yeah, I have a full house. I surprisingly have a waiting list of drivers that want to come here. I'm not growing though. I've been just holding my current fleet the way it is and just getting through this because I don't feel that if to bring on more equipment and drivers, I don't think the work is there consistently enough. I mean, one of the big shippers I work with, he always says it's just slow and the volume's not there right now.
Yeah. You know, it's true. I have a brother-in-law who used to run a grocery store, and he was a butcher by profession. And I remember him saying to me, when times are good, people eat steak. When times aren't good, they eat hamburger. And when times are real bad, they eat pasta.
Yeah. I think the CEO of Kellogg's or something came out here a week ago and said, the way that the American people need to fight this inflation or high costs is just eat more cereal.
Oh, that didn't go over very well, let me tell you.
but just kind of referencing that to the owner of the grocery store, they all have the same idea.
Yeah. And you know what? Cereal, like once in a while for my grandkids' birthdays, I'll buy them a box of sweet cereal as a treat. And the damn stuff's expensive. It's more expensive than hamburger.
Right.
Yeah, they pull the old trick with the cereal. They make the box a little bit bigger and put a little less volume in.
Yes, they call that shrinkflation.
Right.
Yeah.
So Ted, what are your biggest challenges, do you think, right now?
Oh, well, keeping the trucks full, I suppose. I mean, it's a lot of hard work to keep everybody moving.
Right.
And it seems like the better we can pre-plan and the trucks are booked out a week, we do better.
Oh, yeah.
And if we're flying by the seat of our pants with one or two trucks because things aren't going according to plan, they're sitting a little bit until we can get them in that rhythm of they're booked out for a week. So
Right.
I don't know. I guess that's the number one challenge I face is just keeping them moving. The volumes are just not there.
Right. I guess we'll wait for Chuck to come pop back in. So, but now, Ted, you started out with one truck, right? When you very first began, you started out with just one truck, just yourself, right?
Yep, I was that way. Oh gosh, for two or 3 years I was that way, and then I brought one guy on, and gosh, I grew it all the way up to 12, and for a while it was 2 at a time. And
so did you have that was going to be my follow-up question? Did you have a method to your madness when it was time for you to think about expanding, or when you was thinking about adding more on? What did you have certain parameters or benchmarks that you were looking to hit before you began to do that?
so at the time I was growing, we were coming out, during the pandemic, after the pandemic, my customers then, I have 3 main shippers here in Nebraska that I work with. And
Right.
the one that I started out with, they were just demanding more trucks and, find a way to do it and we'll keep them busy. Well, it worked out good for quite a while. And then that one particular customer went and bought a trucking company. So they were looking themselves at the same time they were telling me to grow. And then all of a sudden my volume with them just went out the window. And thankfully, during the good times, I was working really hard to establish other relationships with other customers. And that's really what my saving grace was, because I remember thinking to myself during the pandemic and afterwards, I said, I'm so busy the way it is. Why am I knocking on more doors? But growing up, I'm from the farming community, so I saw commodity prices go up and down. I saw the boom and bust, right? So that was always in the back of my mind when I was taking all this other time, getting set up with these other customers. like, just keep pushing forward, go through all the paperwork. One customer took 2 months to get set up with. And I'm just thankful looking back that I kept pushing forward with all of that, because if I hadn't, I don't know if Elite Commodity Express would still be here or not. My basket of customers during this last year and a half has kept me alive and kept me going.
So tell me this, Ted. When you got ready to, what made you decide when you was looking at, okay, I need to grow, I need to start approaching customers? What did you do? What did you, for people that are listening in, because like I said, you started out with one truck. What was your method on getting training or figuring out a way to go and approach customers directly?
My training.
Did you have any training? Did you read any books? What did you do to kind of help you? Because a lot of people, that seems to be a struggle for a lot of people to make that connect. A lot of people are mostly reliant upon operating in the spot market and just dealing with the low hanging fruit, and they're tremendously intimidated about actually going and speaking to somebody. So from someone that started out with one truck, I'm just curious to know, to hear how you kind of overcame that obstacle and that fear of approaching people directly and going in and having a sales call or having a sales meeting or whatever.
Well, a couple things. As far as my training went, I surrounded myself early on with guys like Chuck Snow, Kevin Rutherford, the CMC in Kansas City, where I met Chuck at. That was, I guess, the extent of my training is, and continuing to listen to guys like Chuck and Kevin Rutherford on their platforms. Outside of that, some of it was luck, and the rest was just, it was only 10% brains, I would say, and the rest was luck and some.
Oh no!
Because the luck really came when I was building this was during the pandemic. So I'm not afraid to talk to people, whether if I did it right or wrong, if they were wanting to talk to me, because everyone needed trucks. And I remember a particular shipper that I'm set up with. I mean, they're huge. They're in the top 5 of a certain industry that that the products that they make.
Right.
And I remember searching on LinkedIn, and one of their transportation directors, I mean, they were making statuses on LinkedIn, looking for local small town carriers, because the big ones weren't there for them.
Oh, and, wow. Really?
Yeah, it was very interesting. So like I say, some of it's luck and me just kind of latching on to that. I don't want to say I was taking full advantage of it, but I was taking full, there was an opportunity there and I went after it.
Well, they say that the old saying goes, there's no such thing as luck. If you're prepared, you know what I'm saying, that you create your own luck. So you had to be in position and ready to pull the trigger to do that.
Right. I guess I knew that they needed us at the time, and so maybe it was preparation, but it just worked out. Timing sometimes is a lot of it, and it worked out.
Chuck is trying to talk to us, but we don't have any volume on you, Chuck. So the small little technical issue. We'll see if we'll see if Chuck can get it squared away. We'll see if Chuck can get it squared away. And in the meantime, so by being seeing the opportunities there to presented themselves, you were there to strike and go ahead and jump on top of that. So were there any relationships? Because relationships is also a huge thing when it comes to getting new business and things of that nature. Did you have any existing relationships that assisted you in being able to go out and maybe make some connections with some people as well, or it was just all strictly searching on LinkedIn and cold calling, basically?
LinkedIn and cold calling was some of it. handwritten letters I have found to be really effective. So I guess it's not really so much training, but the reading that I did was how to write like the perfect letter to get someone's attention. And I paid some money to put some material together to write something, and handwritten letters are they go a long ways yet, because that one of my customers that I do $1 million in business with a year, that was a customer that I handwrit a letter to the owner, and they received it, and called me and brought me on. So uh, I would say LinkedIn and cold calling was maybe 40% of it, and 60% of it was just handwritten letters.
And I'll tell you, and if you don't mind, I remember you started out very, very young at this thing. How old are you now, Ted? Because you like I think when you started out, when we met you up in Kansas City, I think you were what? You were what, 19, 20?
20 when I met you guys in Kansas City, and now I'm 30.
Right. So
10 years.
Man, I tell you, knocking the cover off the ball, my friend. I mean, at your age and being, first of all, disciplined enough to kind of follow through, because we were having a conversation last night. We were doing a podcast, and the conversation came up when we were talking about the differences between being a driver and being an owner operator. And sometimes there's no shame in if you're better off just being a company driver, so to speak. But for you to take the bull by the horn, so to speak, and to jump out there as young as you are, stay disciplined and stay the course, that is really, really that's really admirable, at least from my standpoint. What have you used to kind of help you maintain your focus and discipline when it comes to all the different things of not only owning a fleet but growing a fleet? What kind of was your why that made you kind of stay focused and hone in on making sure that you kind of stay the course?
Well, you get so far into this, looking back, what's helped keep my focus is you start to hire employees, and they start to rely on you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's one thing that helped keeps my focus. And then when those drivers don't have the work that they are expecting to have, you get an earful. So you learn to get good at it fast. And outside of that, it's also, growing a company like Amazon. It takes a lot of debt to get where they're at. So that's helped keep my focus. There's a lot of managing to what we do, debt, drivers, customer relations. So and one thing about trucking, it's 24/7, 365.
Absolutely.
When I'm at home, I still get the phone calls and emails. When I'm at the office, it doesn't matter where I'm at. So it's hard to lose focus of it because it's always following me. But and another thing is, when I started this, maybe you remember when I first met you guys in Kansas City, and when I first started talking to Kevin Rutherford on the radio, everyone was telling me not to do it. It's not possible.
Yeah, we tried to talk you out of it. I remember.
Right. And so some of that is, I'm not going to fail. I'm going to make this work one way or another. This last year and a half, I mean, there was a time, I think, in this last year, every 2 weeks, there was a family-owned trucking company, third generation, going bust.
Yep.
And I know exactly why they were, for the same reasons I didn't know if I was going to make it. I mean, it got competitive. Fuel prices skyrocketed. The capacity of trucks were there. It was very scary. I mean, there was a couple times I had my head in my hands, and I'm like, this thing may not work out. This thing may not last. And so you get good at, I guess, raising capital and going to banks and getting the money, because repairs, the fuel bills, everything is right behind you. The wages, you got to make sure the paychecks go through every Friday. This last year and a half, I had to learn more how to deal with my emotions to stay with it. That's for sure.
Well, you're learning all sorts of stuff, aren't you now, that you never thought you'd have to go through, correct?
Yeah, that's for sure. And there was a couple times, thinking to myself, why did I ever think this was a good idea?
What the hell did I sign up for?
Ted, if I can share some words of somebody that's been through this, bad storms make for great sailors.
Yeah.
And you know what? You've been sailing your ship through some pretty rough storms, and it's just preparing you for growth. God has and I don't want to get spiritual here, but God has a funny way of showing us, what we need to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? You're probably very wise right now, not getting tempted, because trucks are a hell of a lot cheaper than they were a couple years ago. And there's that temptation to get out there and expand. And it may be a great time. I don't think we're there yet. We are, for the availability of drivers and the availability of equipment, but the problem is trying to find work for that equipment.
Yeah. Yeah. And this last year and a half is that's helped. The toughness of it has helped keep my focus too, and it's humbled me very much so.
Yeah.
When I grew this thing, we were having, we were partying, we were having fun, and it was just every day was a good day. But in the back of my mind, I always kind of thought, one day I'm going to come to work and we're not going to be smiling and laughing about this, because like I said earlier, I saw it in the commodity business with farming. It goes up and down, and we're in cynical industries.
Yeah. Well, it's the same industry, really. You're as good as your last crop. You're as good as your last load.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And you're weather dependent. We do not set our own prices. The market sets it.
Yeah.
It's just like farming.
Yeah.
They're so connected.
Yeah.
And but you know what? I think you're going to do real well, because you're going through this right now, and I think you'll come out the other side very strong.
Yeah, I feel like here in the last month or two, I've had some more breathing room with everything. The warmer weather, warmer seasons are upon us, so that definitely helps. But we're still swinging.
Well, you know what? That's the main thing. Now, how many outbound shippers do you have? Are you concentrated, or are you spread out somewhat?
So I have three outbound shippers that I work with.
Okay.
One of my outbound shippers is probably 80%. The other one here, or the other two, it's 10% between them. So the big one, my biggest shipper, has taken care of us, and I've told my drivers, when things get good again and booming, we're staying with this shipper, because they've proven to us that they're going to stay with us during the hard time. And I have a good group of drivers. A lot. They help keep me going when things were tough, and they saw me stressed out. They were like, we're going to get through this one way or another, and they kept telling me, it's going to get better. And I'm like, when you have so much doubt, they help keep you going, because they didn't want to see it fall either, because a lot of these guys have been with me since the beginning.
Wow, that's great.
So
that's a good deal. Yeah,
you're doing everything right. The only thing that, if I can make a suggestion from where we ran a business, the biggest problem I found with our competitors, they were too concentrated with one company. And what you wanna, this should be your goal, is to don't be that dependent upon one shipper. There's that old 80-20 rule. You get 80% of your business from 20% of your customers. And you want to turn that around. And the more you turn that around, the more valuable your business is.
And it's not so much by choice, that the one shipper here is giving us 80% of our loads. They're the only shipper that has the volume to give us.
Right.
And, it's not that I don't disagree with that logic. It's just this one shipper has been my last option, and thankfully they've been taking care of us.
Oh, when you start growing, though, I would try to grow around some other customers, because I think a lot of us have been there in business, and you're dependent upon one customer, and God forbid you lose that customer, lose a bunch of volume. It's like having your business hit by an atom bomb.
Yeah, yeah. So I said earlier I got a new RFP with one of my shippers, and I'm hoping we get through this RFP, and after April 15th, I'll get some more lanes with them. So
Yeah, we were talking at the beginning earlier about the RFP, and if they're giving you zip codes, there were states like Texas where you could blow your brains out. If they want a rate for the entire state, is that a flat rate or a rate per mile?
rate per mile.
Okay, so if you're going further down, you're doing more miles, so they pay you more money.
Right.
Okay, it's not that bad. Where some of them, I remember, wanted a statewide rate. They wanted one for the state of Texas, one rate for the state of Pennsylvania, one rate for the state of California.
So it didn't matter how many miles.
No, they want a flat rate for that state. And you try to argue with these people, not even argue, but present reason, and they would say, no, that's what I want. And there'd be somebody that was willing to do it.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I don't know if you could give them a rate, and then as a tender load, you just rejected what you didn't want, but then they wouldn't be happy with that either.
No, because you know what? What they do now is they're all running metrics on rejected loads. And if you reject too many loads, they cut you off.
Oh.
Right, yeah. Right, you out of there.
You got to watch that. And, that's one of the pitfalls of that. So you want to be careful. Because what a lot of small carriers will do, they'll get, 45 of the states to quote, and they'll quote every one of them. And then all of a sudden it hits. And then they want you to take all these loads, and they give you, 10 loads going to eat, they give you 450 loads for a month. And what are you going to do with 12 trucks?
Right. Yeah.
You got to be really, really cautious about that.
Right.
So now, Chuck, in that situation, and kind of using Ted as our avatar, so to speak, would you say that maybe he's at a point to where he might need to start exploring, maybe open up a brokerage?
If you can get the trucks and you have the cash flow, okay? Because remember, if you're going to deal with as a broker, you got to be able to pay those carriers pretty quickly, and you can't use your broker money to pay your, to keep your trucks on the road. So you got to segregate that.
Right.
And you have to have different locations, right? Like trucking, like a brokerage needs to be at a different address than the trucking company, correct?
Well, I don't know. I am sure that the big guys, like, where you are in Nebraska, Werner Logistics, I'm sure it's in Omaha, their head office, because that's all their companies are. But they'll have a different corporate structure. But what we have to be careful, guys, I had a friend of mine in Northern Ontario that ran a trucking company that said one really, really profound thing once in his life, which I will repeat. And that is, the trucking industry is full of people that try to solve problems by creating new ones.
Yeah.
And it's true. It is the ruination of our industry.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can definitely see that. But with listening to how Ted was just kind of describing what he's dealing with and what's going on, it gets more and more difficult. I mean, he's definitely surpassed the point of running a dumbbell, so to speak, which is what we talk a lot about here on the show. So I was just trying to, thinking out loud, what would be another way for him to maybe to begin to just curiously, and since we got you here, you've kind of been down this road before, Chuck. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to pose the question to you.
Have the cash flow to back up your brokerage, you're fine, but you have to have the cash flow, because the second you don't, you're gone. People stop hauling your loads, or they'll take your load and hold it ransom. You owe them money. How
Yeah.
legal that is, I don't know, but they will do it. So you don't, and then all of a sudden your customer gets involved, and then it could become very embarrassing. So that's what you have to be careful of.
Yeah. I have thoughts of opening up a freight brokerage, but I guess my theory is I'm going to keep working with the same nuts and bolts until I run out of them. Right.
Yep, I agree. The other problem is if you open up a freight brokerage, and I found this out, it is very, very difficult to get brokers to work with you for your backhauls.
Yeah. I
So
They're
become
afraid that you're going to kind of back solicit.
well, yeah, they become very shy. And you know, when Traffics many years ago put trucks into our corporate name, I had to really, really work hard with a bunch of brokers to prove my honesty and my integrity, which I had no problem doing. And I built up a good brokerage base. But you know, as our brokerage business started to really, really expand, it became harder and harder for us to get work from a lot of brokers, because we just got so big, and you know, and we couldn't help but cross paths, because we had all these salespeople and we had all these shippers, and you know, it just got ugly, and that's one of the reasons I had to get out of the really reduce my less than truckload activity. I had a great LTL business going, but we needed all the brokers in order to facilitate that less than truckload business, because you know, we would have 3/4 of a load going a certain direction, and you had to fill out with that other quarter, because that was your difference between profit and loss.
Right.
And then, of course, as traffic started to expand our brokerage services, we had to back off from the LTL. It just became too impossible. So you always risk that. And, you know, Ted, there's nothing wrong with staying in your lane. You know, and you just take, you know, just don't quote as many, figure out what are the good lanes for you and quote those ones.
Yeah.
Not to be the best, because you don't want to lose your integrity with your customer and quote a bunch of stuff you can't do.
And that's speaking of this, one of my shippers that I use, the carrier that hauls for them, they have their own manufacturer, right?
Right,
So there's a manufacturing company who owns a trucking company,
right.
and they're in with my other customer. And it's odd to me because that trucking company of theirs is getting to see their competitors' customers. And I just sometimes wonder that the shipper that they're doing this with, I mean, are they so big that they're ignorant to the fact that their competition's actually hauling their products and maybe getting, getting sales leads out of that?
They know, you know what, with those big guys, they all know each other's customers.
Okay.
There's no fear of that. They're so big. I understand how you're thinking, and I would have thought the same way. And all of a sudden, you know, now that I have a lot more experience with corporate America at the C level, these guys couldn't care less, because everybody knows everybody, you know. And I'm going to say, if you were delivering fish to Kroger stores, the other guy that's delivering fish to Kroger stores, he knows about Kroger stores. You know, he knows about Whole Foods. There's nothing they don't know. They you know, they're all places they all go to.
Yeah.
And all they're interested right now, get their product to market at the best possible price they can get. That's all they care about.
Yeah. It's just odd. It was just odd to me.
I agree. You know what? During the latter part, like once we got halfway through that pandemic, from I would say around 2021, the middle of 2021, I had some customers call me and they said, you know what, we're having such a tough time. We're going to buy some trucks. And I said, well, good luck with that one, because I've seen this one before. And I've heard from them, even though I'm retired now. I have heard from them going, hey, Chuck, do you know anybody who wants to buy these trucks? And I go, no.
Yeah.
I told you not to do this. But they got into it trying to, really what happened was they tried to fix the problem by creating a new one.
Right. And that's what one of my shippers did. The one that was my bread and butter, they went and, I mean, they had a couple trucks of their own the way it was, and it was working. But then they went and bought a whole nother trucking company and added it on and kind of gave us the boot. So far, they're making a go of it, but, time
How
will
many
tell.
trucks are they running? A lot?
60 or 70 now.
Oh, okay. So they're big. You know what? They're a big customer. They're a big carrier. Okay. You know what? Let them do it. They may not last in this market, or they might. Who knows?
Yeah.
They may decide to do something else.
Yeah.
Because it's a challenge. But it will get good, because I think we're culling out the herd right now.
And I mean, I know you're retired now, Chuck, but I mean, do you hear within the walls of traffic, what their challenges, or is there any challenges, or is things just flowing?
Yeah, every company has some sort of challenges. Now, I have nothing to do with traffic whatsoever anymore. It's I've been gone for just about 2 years. I will help them the odd time, and I still love doing a road test now and then for them when the regular guy isn't available. But that's about it. But yeah, there's not a business out there, including the biggest Fortune 500 companies out there, the Amazons, the Microsofts, Apple, everybody else. They have day-to-day problems. Everybody does. Where you're fighting with a customer for money. You're fighting with a team member because he wants to go and do something rogue that you don't agree with. All sorts of stuff, and it will always happen.
I understand.
Every business is going. And Ted, as long as you're in business, you're going to have some problems.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It happens. And when your business gets, when your business gets real big, you're going to have some big problems. And when it's small, you have small problems. It's all relevant.
Right. Yeah.
Go ahead, Ted. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, like my challenges are just sometimes getting enough volume to keep it all going. We're staying steady. We're not overly busy. We're not overly slow, but just kind of looking at what I deal with. It's just making sure that all the trucks are moving when they want to move.
You actually answered the question I was getting ready to ask you. I was going to ask you what's one of the biggest challenges that you guys face over there on your side. That's really interesting. So, do you guys operate? I know at one point in time, if I remember correctly, you had a couple of different trailer types. Are you still operating multiple trailer types, or you just kind of consolidated down to just focus on what it is your customers?
We are 100% refrigerated. When interest rates started skyrocketing, that's when I got rid of the flatbed. The flatbed business has gone down the tubes. It's a very sad industry when we decided to leave. So there was just no opportunity in the reefer business.
Yeah, it's what flatbeds are the first people to do well when things turn around, and the first ones to do bad when things get bad.
Yeah.
They're the canary.
My owner operator, that was pulling my flatbed, we just agreed that me and him could both have a little bit bigger paycheck going into the reefer, and that's what we decided to do.
I think it's
you're out there in the meat patch, so you kind of in the sweet spot to kind of be able to get a good decent amount of volume with that on the refrigerated side.
And I guess what keeps us busy maybe with the customer is, we have a great scorecard with them. We get the trailers out of the shipper when they want them out. We get them delivered on time without any issues. I mean, we have the odd time where he's dealt with a mechanical issue or something's actually on us.
Right.
But I mean, my guys
that's
really
trucking.
Yeah, my guys have really fought hard, to make sure we're delivering on time. I had one guy here a while back that broke down on the interstate, and he hit a bump, and the battery cable decided to break, and he lost all the power to his truck, and he walked across the interstate to the truck stop to get a hose clamp to put the wires back together enough to keep the truck going down the road. So when there's some people there who want to go the extra mile because they don't really care, but my entire crew, they care, they understand. The harder we try to do a good job, we're going to be taken care of.
That's trucking 101 right there, my friend. That is trucking 101.
The two things I remember when we first met that really made you stand out from the rest of the herd was, number one, you had two trucks for one guy, because you said, they're older trucks. One of them is bound to break down. I don't want to mess up any customers. And that really resonated big with me. That was number one. Number two, you told me how you had put a generator on your truck, just an old gas generator, I believe, and you had put an air conditioner from a house in your truck, and you ran it off of the generator, which was brilliant. That was just, and it just taught me right away. That was a real insight into your soul, and I knew you were going to make it when you told me those things. So this is no surprise that you've got 12 trucks. You're a smart guy. You think outside.
Well, I appreciate the kind words there. And so I did things like that to save money and, to save the wear and tear on the truck. And, I was always thinking outside the box, how can I keep my maintenance costs low, and, how can I stay cool or hot, depending on the season. And then I come across certain drivers that come and go here, and it's just like, man, trucking isn't, riding a Cadillac.
No.
You got to sacrifice a couple of things here to make it work.
That goes back to what I was saying earlier, how impressed I am with your dedication as far as being able to stay disciplined and see things through, especially at your age. I mean, it's still, not to sound like I'm an old geezer or nothing like that, but I mean, but when you, like I said, when I met you, when we met, you came in and you were 20 years old, and now you're 30. So that's really, to have that amount of maturity to kind of just really be focused on the task at hand and being responsible not only for yourself but for other employees and things of that nature, and to maintain your business. That's truly impressive, Ted. I definitely salute you, my friend. That's good stuff. That is really good stuff, because you got a lot of people that can't, hell, they can't manage themselves, let alone a fleet of drivers and different customers and things that goes on. So, man, that's truly commendable.
I appreciate that, and thank you. But I've gotten to this position because of help and wisdom and knowledge from you guys. I've looked up to you guys. When I first started, I was always listening to your shows, reading your material, keeping up with you, because I think you've been doing this podcast since the first CMC. Maybe it was the second one in 2014, 15, but I mean, you've been doing this for a long time too.
We've been at it for a little while. And it's kind of been a labor of love, because one thing that like when we started, and now podcasting seems definitely to be all the rage, but when we started, it was very little information that was out there, and that was kind of how we kind of got into this thing. Because when I very first got started in the industry, when I bought my first truck, and I knew how to drive the truck, but I was green on the concept of knowing what we call the show, rates and lanes. I'm thinking that, hey, I understand what my cost per mile is, so I'm thinking that regardless of where I'm going in the country, that this number should apply. Not knowing that different regions and different lanes and and definitely understanding supply and demand on different parts and different markets that you happen to go in, what's that going to do and how is that going to affect the rate? I had no freaking clue. I was the only clue that I had was that, hey, I know that I think I remember at that time I needed like $1.77 per mile to be profitable. And that's what I was operating based on a dollar. And I think my very first load, I was living in South Carolina at the time, and I think my very first load was to Pottsville, PA, or something like that. I was doing dry box, and I think it was a load of mulch. That was my very first load, and I think I got like $2.13 per mile to go up there. I was like, oh man, I'm gonna be rich doing this. And I think I had to walk the plank coming back down.
Yeah.
So and so for a while that just really bewildered me. I had no clue. I came from LTL. I worked LTL with a couple of major carriers, YRC for a little while, Saya. That's I did that, and then I had my trial by fire. I got my very first job when I got started in trucking was with MS Carriers. That's where I got trained at up there in Memphis. Mike Stearns Carriers. Up that way, and so I knew how to drive a truck. I understood all the safety aspects and how to get from point A to point B. I knew how to read a map and do all that stuff, but the business aspect and understanding, like I say, understanding how supply and demand affects different things and start getting into, that's what fascinated me. And I was like, for other people that may be coming behind me that may or may not know, what could be a resource to kind of help them get up to speed on this type of stuff. But now, we live in the information age, and there's a lot of people that do a way better job than we could ever do. You got to give a shout out to Freight Waves and all those guys that really have all the analytical data to be able to mine all that stuff and bring it up and present it. Because man, we were going off of USDA charts and all the other different things to try to help get some type of a glimpse as to what we need to be charging. But it's definitely, the industry has come a long ways with the amount of information that can help you be successful. But at the same time, it's up to the individual person and to kind of take that information to make it useful for themselves in their operations. And you have done a tremendous job with that, Ted, because like I said, to maintain the focus and to grow your company the way that you have, man, that's I feel proud. I'm like, man, I remember this young kid, 20 years old, coming up. I was like, man, this guy, and look at you now, man. I mean, hey, salute. This is kind of been. We've had 2 back-to-back interviews with people that we've known for quite some time, and it's just tremendous to see the growth that both of you guys have made. We interviewed Sheree Moore from She Truck, and I don't know if you know her, Ted, or not, but we interviewed her. Me and her have quite a bit of history as well, and tonight we're talking with you, and both of you guys have just kind of like been like a rocket ship. You guys have been out of there, and it's
work hard. It's not, you don't do stupid stuff, and you listen to your head, not your heart. You don't make emotional decisions. You make logical ones, and you stay in your lane. Now, speaking of lanes, Ted, I just have to ask you a question. Where do you run? You mentioned Florida, but where else do you guys run these days?
Florida, Maryland, and Texas. We have been doing some stuff to Arizona. With this particular customer, it gives us most of our volume. I've learned just to take the loads, and we're going to figure it out. But majority of it is Florida, Maryland, and Texas.
So, do you take the tougher lanes that customer has? Did you take that approach of trying to be a problem solver and taking the tougher lanes, or were you able to kind of maybe as a courtesy take some of the tougher lanes, but still get some of the sweet spots as well?
As I hired my drivers and built the fleet up, the conversation, during the hiring process is where do you like to go and where do you like to run? And most of my crew likes to run to Florida. And so I would go to the customer and say, hey, I'm ready to bring on another driver, and I got, equipment for him. and they would like to run to Florida. I mean, do you have the freight to Florida? And they said, yeah. And so that's how I, kind of made the approach, because to keep a driver happy and to keep them, you kind of got to cater to where they would like to run.
Well, you have
And
to
then,
hire drivers that want to, like, if you've got a lane, let's just say for Arizona or Florida, you hire drivers that like to go there rather than hire a guy who wants to go to Manhattan. There are guys that do like to run Manhattan. They like the challenge. I don't know why, but they do like it. Let me ask you, what do you do in Florida when you get into the summer months, like into the latter part of June, and once melons are out of there, which is usually the beginning of June, July, August, even into right into October. What are you guys doing then?
well, during the produce season, which is produce season hasn't quite started yet, but the flower plant loads have been moving.
Right.
And we have a great, and I mean great, relationship with a gal at a big brokerage firm.
Right.
And she caters to us. And I always know a week in advance, week and a half out, where my trucks are going to be. And I communicate that with her. And she's like, I got you covered. Don't worry about it. Send them down here. They're covered. So, that's what we're doing right now.
Relationships.
Yes. And I'm not ashamed to work with a good freight broker. I mean,
you know what? Great sales team. It's business.
They need us. They want a good carrier, like I want a good broker. So we're doing that now. And then when produce starts to pick up, watermelons and such, I am set up directly with a produce farm. And they have farms in Florida all the way up to Indiana and Illinois. So we'll stay with them here, maybe mid-April. They'll get going on that pretty heavy. So we'll ride the produce season out. But when the produce is all gone, the flower loads are gone, plant loads as such, we go to Florida, Miami, and from there we'll bounce those trucks all the way up to Tennessee and Kentucky, reload milk, and come back to Nebraska.
You got a big deadhead there. So let me ask you, Ted, are any of your trucks, do they have e-tracking in them inside?
No. It's not. It's something I want to work into, but we have missed out on some opportunities because of that. But not a lot.
The reason I'm asking is because if you had e-tracking, you could probably load tropical plants, which do move they'll move 12 months a year.
Oh, wow.
And some of them come out of, there is some coming out of Homestead. There's some coming out of, Broward and Dade counties. The bulk of them now are coming out of Apopka area, which is just outside of Tampa. And they go all over.
Okay. I'll have to keep that in mind. There's going to come a time where things get a little better and we can update equipment easier. But it's something I want to definitely work into.
Yeah. They want e-tracking so they can stack the smaller plant. They can stack them up.
Okay.
Well, I'm looking at the time and we're getting close to an hour, and I don't want to. Chuck is Ted has already been more than gracious enough to kind of hang out with us and accommodate us by doing the interview with us tonight. So, but before we get out of here, Ted, let everybody know if you want to, what any closing thoughts you'd like to leave us with, or anything you'd like to tell people if they have questions, or if they want to maybe reach out to you or anything like that. If you're on social media, if you want to leave any of that stuff, by all means, the floor is yours, my friend.
Well, I'm very active on Twitter. I guess now it's called X. But
X.
I'm on there. The freight community on X is out of this world. It's the place to be. If you're in logistics or trucking, you got to get on X. And we call everybody, there's a hashtag on Twitter, and it's FreightX, hashtag FreightX community. So I'm on there, and you can find me at Teddy J CEO. And I guess if you want to email me questions, thoughts, you can reach me at ted@ecetruck.com. As far as any closing thoughts, just just keep plugging away, and if you got a real passion for it, it'll keep you going.
True.
Keep chopping wood. Keep chopping wood. Well, Ted, once again, we want to thank you for being so gracious with your time and hanging out with us tonight. My co-host there, he's kind of he's living the life, he's living the dream over there. He's getting ready to go on vacation on us. I think this might be his 10th vacation this year, but who's counting?
It's all it is. Up for it, man.
But who's counting? We're not keeping track of you, Chuck. But if you would, Chuck, since you're going to be out with your toes in the sand and everything, I don't know if people are going to be able to get in contact with you.
Well, I want email out, but bear with me. I'm actually going. I'll tell you all about it when I get back. I'm not going to say anything now, but we're going to be the other side of the world, pretty much, and so I'm not back on land in the United States till around the 8th or the 9th. If you do send an email to chucksnow280@outlook.com and put your phone number on it, and if by chance I get to open up emails, I will certainly, I'll certainly call you and answer any question you have. If you're having a tough time right now or a challenging time, or you need some advice, feel free. I'm always there for our listeners. Ted, I want to thank you again for joining us, especially on short notice. It was a pleasure seeing you. It was great to hear how well you're doing. You're hanging in there, man. I'm proud of you. I really am.
Well, I appreciate it, and I just want to touch on, for me, this is where it began, right here at Rates and Lanes. You guys gave me plenty of kudos and things, but thank you for being my teachers. Your advice now and your advice then has helped get me where I'm at. So I appreciate your guys' help to help me get where I'm at.
Well, thank you. But when the student is ready, the teacher shall appear.
Old ancient proverb, right? Chinese proverb.
Yes, and there's a lot of truth to it.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna getting ready to close this thing out tonight. Want to thank everybody for taking their time out to listen. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you took a little time to hang out here with us on Rates and Lanes, and we're always eternally grateful for you doing so. If you would, please, if you found anything tonight useful at all, or if you know anybody else that this might be able to help out, by all means, share the link, send it to them, comment into the section, drop us a comment down in the section. If you got any questions or any topics that you would like to see us try to be able to cover or get a future guest on in the future, by all means, let us know who you would like or what you would like to hear us talk about, and we'll do our best to try to scour the industry and find someone that may be able to come on to kind of help go a little bit deeper into that particular topic or that particular subject. So, and with that being said, we want you guys to stay safe out there, stay healthy, keep it in between the mustard and the mayonnaise, and God bless you and good night.
Catch on the flip-flop. God bless.
Thanks again, Ted. Safe travels, Chuck.
Thank you. God bless.